Thanks, Inge, and welcome to everyone attending this webinar. Really good that we are there with so many people. I will talk about international developments, and then you will notice that this is not so much about the mental health, but about recognition and reward. The little bridge is the Leiden in Motion activity, which is part of a broader recognition and reward development in the Netherlands. And the connection, so the real question is, what is the connection between the mental health issues in academia, the responsible metrics debate, as instigated also by Dora, and the recognition and reward developments that are taking place not only in the Netherlands, but a bit broader as well. And that has to do that a lot of the stress that PhD candidates experience is related to the requirements of the thesis, and especially the number of publications that they need to deliver in order to get through their PhD in time and according to plan. So these mental health issues are, of course, in the background there. They are around everywhere all the time, but in the next slides that I show, you will hardly ever see them popping up. But they are. But in the end, I will come back to them and will show that it is part of the bigger systemic problem of how we deal with these things in academia. So next slide, please. Yes, and that is what I wanted to point out before I show some policy developments. Is that what I call the battle between academic excellence on the one hand and the impact, and that research should have according to policy and to funders, and the broader goals that it should serve through outreach, engagement, and all the things that you see on the right side. And that are reflected by the policy concept of responsible research and innovation, and somehow they battle with the core that PhD suffer from, the publications, and as soon as they finish, the grants that they have to achieve in order to build their own credibility cycle and reputation, which you need before you're able to get a tenure position and to be recognized within your discipline, and in which situation more is always better. And while on the right, so from the right-hand side, you see increasing pressure to focus on other aspects than only the publications. I think there are two interesting examples, actually three, that show that it is difficult to get away from this core pressure that is caused by this academic excellence frame. And on the left hand, you see a tweet. This was one from last year, and I think it reflects excellently what is the resistance that is still there in all layers of the system. And this is about an editorial of Nature saying that replication studies are important, which is one of the things that are that pop up in this policy debate. And then this guy, John Speakman, says, it's nice to see this in Nature, but don't get misled. Nature will never, ever publish your replication study, ever. No matter how important they say doing this is, they will not even review it, ever. And I think he's completely right, because this is still happening a lot, regardless of the fact that they say it is important. And the same holds for all these impact and policy driven needs that are imposed on academia as they feel it. in a recent study that is called RQuest, a Norwegian study. We have done a large survey in 5 European countries, Nordic countries mainly, on engagement activities of researchers, and it clearly shows that assistant professors in temporary positions and everything that is below that do not engage in other things than publication and grant writing, basically. Only when you're in the tenure position and have become an associate professor or a professor, you'll find the time, or you allow yourself the time to do other types of things. And it is a system that is maintaining itself as well, as shown by the DORA tweet from this February, where they show that across disciplines, we find that faculty hiring follows a common and steeply hierarchical structure that reflects profound social inequality. So that study you can find through Twitter as well. So what it actually shows is that there is a lot of policy drive to change, but that the system is very resistant, and that basically explains a lot of the mental health issues that we observe in our studies, but it's never so explicitly said. So next slide then. Show some of the Dutch developments to change the system, if you like. And I think the first one in the Netherlands was the development of science in transition, already 8 years back. They published a position paper after 3 rounds of consultation workshops, and covered themes like images of science, the history of science, trust, quality, reliability and corruption, communication, democracy, and the balance between education and research. And so they signaled a lot of the problems that academia is not not completely fit for purpose anymore to solve a lot of the issues that are out there. And then in 2015, CWTS was involved in the Leiden Manifesto, which published the 10 principles of responsible metrics. I don't go through all of the 10, but the main message is that data are increasingly used to govern science, so numbers of publication, grants, and so forth, and that research evaluations that were usually based upon peer review and qualitative discussion are now routinely depending on metrics, and basically the principles state that these metrics should be used with care and never as a standalone. Another early example of developments on systemic change in academia was by the Utrecht University. I think this was developed coming from the library mainly, and developed in the context of open science, and there they developed several initiatives such as on open access, fair data and software, but also on recognition and rewards. They complied, or they stated that they were in favor of fewer numbers but better science, and they developed specific career tracks focusing more on entrepreneurship or on education, for instance. So they're very early adopters, if you like. And then also internationally, in terms of career development, policy things were happening. Next slide, please. So these career developments, of course, you can look at this from different perspectives. On the one hand, that career should be, it should include much more aspects and require different types of skills in order to be able to comply with all the needs out there in society. so in order, it's more like developing broader academic careers, but of course, after PhD, all knowledge intensive jobs are open. So it's a bit of a, the discussion is a bit of which you on the one hand reserve the academic jobs to be very academic and let all the other the skilled people in other domains go out somewhere else, or do you want to include this other type of skills within the academic careers? And I think the latter is the case. If you look at the Open Science Career Matrix, which was published by the European Commission in 2017, they represent in this matrix a range of evaluation criteria for assessing open science activities. And they include a lot more things than just publications. They focus on data sets and open source, on stakeholder engagement, citizen science, collaboration, interdisciplinarity. Leadership is an important issue popping up here for the first time. Academic standing, networking, peer review, all kinds of things. Also teaching, communication, dissemination, societal impact. So the whole bunch, everything that you can think of as also was mentioned in the impact set on the right hand is in this Open Science Career Matrix. Another approach was published by a policy brief that came out of the Marie Curie Alumni Association. They were participating in a project called New Horizon on grounding RRI practices. No, one back, please. And they and what they plea for is actually to broaden the current evaluation criteria and modernize the notion of excellence. So I thought that was an interesting angle to say, okay, we don't define excellence as a very narrow publication, grant-driven thing, but we broaden it up so as so to get rid of the battle. And to include all those aspects in excellence, although I would rather get rid of the word excellence. And then a very recent report that came out last February and was a joint study by DORA and the European University Association, is also describing these reimagining academic career assessment, and they present some stories on interesting examples, both nationally as institutionally. And I think they move away from the other type of criteria to more process activities in terms of supporting the implementation of other type of career aspects, and to aim for institutional initiatives. And in terms of this supporting the implementation, they state things like go for open, accurate, transparent and responsible practices, focus on raising awareness, community engagement and building capacity, and aim for institutional initiatives. So in a sense, it is broadening out and getting more vague and more general. Maybe that is because it is so difficult to really create change, and you have to do it bottom up and in order to change the culture. So going back to the Netherlands, this whole debate on recognition and reward resulted in a paper by the funders and the Royal Academy of Science and the Organization of Universities, and it's called The Room for Everyone's Talents, in which they search for a new balance in the recognition and reward of academics, and they plea for more diversity and more opportunities for collaboration and in interdisciplinarity, and they want to even change the whole calibrated university job classification system. And this position paper has been translated into activities at all the universities in the Netherlands, and Leiden in Motion, the next slide, is the Leiden translation actually of this room for everyone's talent. And of course, the same words appear here as have been appearing in all these documents. It has the same ingredients, such as the leadership, the transparency, and the focus on, in this case, specifically on rewarding education and team science. And the documents that are there the focus is still very processual. All the groups, the working groups are in place, and they now have a kind of plan in which they state that they have to develop a vision and then to translate the vision into concrete objectives and to make an implementation plan and take a steering role. So, and then this plan, of course, includes orientation, research, analysis, setting priorities. So as I said, very processual. So we are, in fact, talking, next slide, please, on transformative change of research culture, and then with the hope or wish that this system change will bring some good for the mental health of everyone working in this system. And in this last slide, I think I have collected the four elements that were presented in a paper, a working paper that was published last November. And that is about responsible research assessment and the progress, obstacles, and the way ahead. And they stated there 4 problems. And the first one on this slide I left as it was, because here for the first time you see explicitly mentioned that the current system creates unsustainable pressures on researchers, and hence this is a first link directly to the mental health problems that we are discussing all the time. So I would like to get these 2 silos together. So it states, it not only says that it creates unsustainable pressure, but also creates problems with research integrity and reproducibility. The other 3 criteria or problems I have translated in a positive way, in positive frame, because if you really change this culture, then we probably will be able to increase the diversity of research missions and purposes, as well as strategic priorities, and people can do a lot broader work than they now do when they think that they have to publish it. If we have this change in culture, then we also increase diversity in skills and career pathways. And then we also maybe are able to increase the capacity of academia to answer to grand societal challenges. And the last one is, if we move away from things that can be measured and focus on less tangible or quantifiable qualities, then and impacts and assets and values, then again this will, I hope, relieve the stress. So it is my firm belief that we have to engage in this process of transformative change. Of course, in addition to supporting the PhD candidates at the individual level. And then I would like to close with the question of, as you could see from as soon as you start talking about the Leiden emotion, the question of how we are going to do this really remains a big question mark. And it is really requiring a lot of effort from all of us, because it isn't an easy task to change. And the devil, of course, is in the details, because and we are finding this out at CEROTS, because we did start our own process of recognition and reward in the institute to practice what we preach. It's called Unicorn, and it's a process that's highly valued among our colleagues. And we hope to aim to open up the discussion, but it really isn't so easy. So the policy and the wishes are there, but now the translation has to take place. And I think that's it. Next slide is thank you all for your attention. And here you can find all our contact details. And happy to answer all the questions, Inge as well, of course, not only on this latter part, but especially on the first part.